I am going to go over with you guys the importance of signing the lease and kind of persuade you more to read the leases, no matter if it's an apartment lease, a car lease, or if you are even doing a general loan through somebody. In our lease, it states that the landlord has a right to enforce any such terms, covenants, arrangements, and or conditions by the same shall continue the full force and effect. This is a binding agreement within the 2015 lease with Rain Management. Our leases are set up to be 3 pages long. And when you have not signed a lease or you don't understand the leases because these are not written to be easily understood, you do not realize that they are a binding contract. Making sure that you do read the entire lease and fully understand it and ask any questions is the best thing you can do with anything that you do, since it becomes binding after it's been signed. A lot of the tenants, after signing a lease, typically ask when rent is due. And it's one of those that really lets me know that the lease is more skimmed over rather than actually read. And it's more from our college students than from our adults. It is stated on page 1 in the first paragraph when your rent is due, what your late fees are. So it just kind of goes to show when you skim over something because it's longer or you're excited about it, you really don't take the time to fully understand it. The co-signers typically read the lease way more carefully than the tenant. The co-signer reads it due to the fact of being a little more older, more mature, and having a full comprehension of what a lease is. The only part that the co-signer fails to realize is after your lease has been completed, they are still binding to that lease until the tenant is out. So the only way for them to remove themselves from that lease is to actually evict the person by putting in a 30-day notice and allowing them to apply on their own. Otherwise, the lease just goes month to month, co-signer and tenant both held responsible. When your lease is complete, it states in there that you have to have a 30-day notice from your rent due date. A lot of people do not understand that that means if you want to move out May 15th and this is April 2nd, you're bound to rent for that whole next month. You can't just put in 30 days from whatever day. If you wanted to move out at the end of May, I have to have notice by May 1st. It is on your rent due date. If you do put it in May 2nd, you are bound to June rent, regardless. It's one of those that a lot of people do not understand because in most places, 30 days means 30 days from whenever you put in that you do want to be moved out. After you've put in a 30-day notice, our lease lets you know that we have 30 days for you to do all your cleaning, to make sure everything's moved out, and make sure that the apartment comes back in the condition that you would want us to have it back in. On your walkout sheet, which the owner does with you, he lists off whether things are clean or dirty, and it's actually the exact same sheet that you guys have done when you move in. A lot of people become really upset with the carpet cleaning fee. It does state in your lease, if you have carpet, what the charges are. It states in your lease, if we have to do any cleaning, what the charges would be. All of those are typically skimmed over, but they're the second paragraph on the second page of their lease. I have gone over and over with co-signer and tenant trying to fill them in on where to find everything within their lease. It's all there, it's just not made for you to really understand it. When the 30 days is up, we do a walkthrough, walk out with you. We like to have a forwarding address so we know where to send your deposit check. If you have broken your lease, this is where your $200 lease breaking fee comes out, which is up in the first paragraph of your lease. And that's also where any of your cleaning, damages, late fees, all of that comes out. The state of Kansas makes us send out a statement, and we have 30 days from the day you move out. We typically send them out around the 27th, 28th day. They just have to be postmarked. The state of Kansas says that upon termination of the tenancy, any security deposit held by the landlord may be applied to payment of occupant for the amount of the rent, which the landlord has all rights to do. Also, the landlord can use that deposit to cover any damages which the landlord finds fitting. So we do have 30 days. We do have to legally send out a statement, and we also send out a check if you have anything left over. If you have a cosigner, the check has the cosigner's name on there as well. All parties on the lease are listed unless otherwise stated in writing by all parties. We can't just have one person say, I get the whole check. It has to be either the cosigner saying, I don't want any of the check, or the two parties saying, we want to split the check. The check is mailed to the cosigner. They typically own their home. They typically have not moved. You are the party moving. Typically, you do not give us a forwarding address, so we get your mail back. This way, we don't have a check just floating out and about. If there are any payments that need to be made because you got back none of your deposit, we do set up pay arrangements. I'm a firm believer in, clearly, I don't have a lot of money to pay for extra expenses, and I always put myself in the tenant's shoes. If you do set up pay arrangements, I'm talking $5 a month, $5 every 2 weeks, whatever works for you to pay on your balance. The balance is typically a lot higher if you break a lease because it can range clear up to $4,000 or $5,000. If it's just the general cleaning, it's typically not very much. After your deposit comes out, typically around $400 or $500. Really depends on the condition of the apartment and how much your deposit was to begin with. We do set up the pay arrangements. I highly encourage those. We call you and try to get you just to respond to those. We will send you a letter, try to find where you live, anything we can do just to get that started. However, we have several tenants who do not set up pay arrangements, who are not willing to work with us and paying off the debt. I will even negotiate pricing with you. If there's something you don't agree with, take it off, but you have to give me one of the other items. We really do work with you. But those that do not want to pay, it's really discouraging because then we end up going to court. My boss is a firm believer in paying for damages that you have done, and I always try to discourage that because if you have 3 people on a lease, that's $15 in sheriff's fee for each person, plus $86 for court cost. Also, if you couldn't pay your bill to begin with because you don't have a lot of income, you're going to be missing 3 days of work to go to court. It's not something I could personally afford to miss to go to court. If you miss one, it automatically goes in his favor anyway. Neither party can have an attorney, but it is just one of those things that kind of adds up quite a bit. My whole thing for letting you know how far it can go is just so that you read leases. You read them, you understand them, you ask any questions. I would rather go over a lease with you 1,000 times, every part of the lease, to have you understand what type of agreement you're getting into, rather than have you sign something and then have it come back to where you regret it later. I do hope I have kind of persuaded you to read leases, contracts, agreements, anything that you signed in the future. And just remember, if you do not understand something, to ask questions.
Yay!